Hi, everyone. Welcome back. How was the coffee break? Did some great networking, some great influencing, I hope? Yes, good. Wonderful. Well, very, very pleased to have you back to talk part two on the future of influence. So we'll do a little quick recap of this morning's session, but really get into, all right, so, we've talked about the importance of influence. Now, what does it mean for you specifically, for your businesses? And also, because everyone keeps asking me, yes, the famous Harry will be joining me on stage in about 10 minutes. So we'll wait for him. He is a real person. All right. So the future of influence, part two. You're all graduating to part two. Well done. So let's do a quick recap. Really, what we're here to talk about today is two things: inspiration, which is to feel something. And this is very importantly the first step in travelers' path to purchase. Remember that. That's really key for this session. And then, of course, influence, which is to take action. And that is where you come into the picture. So, I'm going to ask the question again. Who in this room is an influencer? We're going to start off strong. Every single hand, who's an influencer in this room? Fantastic. Wonderful. So Lufthansa City Center is, again, Martina, thank you for being here at this session today. I appreciate it. I won't tell the other session. Your business is, meaning your agency. Your travelers are, very key, your travelers are constant influencers for your business. And of course, you are. Now, when we look at the path to purchase, as we've talked about, inspiration is so key. That is the number one step. And especially for travel, more than anything else, is where are people finding that original, that first spark of what they want to do, where they want to go. After inspiration comes research. So inspiration first, they get inspired, then they start to do research, then they start to plan, and then they start to book. Now, when you think about these four key steps in the path to purchase, I'm curious, where do you think that you either come into the picture, or let's say most of the time? Where do you feel that you come into the picture most of the time? Just shout out some numbers here. 2? Thanks for the honesty. 1 to 4, I love it. I love the confidence as well. Anyone else? All right, so the key here, as I'm sure you can take from what I said earlier today, is you need to be at the top of your client's mind, at the top of a traveler's mind for every single one of these steps of the path to purchase. Because ultimately, that is where your influence comes into play. So you want to be the one influencing them at every single step of the path to purchase. And you can do that because you have those personal relationships, and also you are a person. You are an individual. And as we talked about, the key, especially when we talk about social media, is to make it personal and individual and authentic. And a reminder about the importance of this, again, I'm not here to talk about any kind of fluffy metrics. We're doing black and white today, getting you to profitability through social media and influence. Luxury travelers have said they make purchasing decisions based on business posts on social media. 76% said that. And they also make purchases, luxury travelers, based on C2C social media. So this is a post by an individual rather than a brand. So when you look at 60% of luxury travelers up to 70 plus being influenced and making purchases based on social media, I hope you all agree you have to be on social media. You have to be active on social media. You have to be where your clients are starting that path to purchase. Now, let's dig into some more numbers here. So this is, I keep referencing this study that was done recently with 70,000 travelers around the world. And these are the results of that study, combined with one that just came out specifically about travel advisors. As I mentioned in the earlier session, a lot of the times when there are studies done of the travel industry, they leave out travel advisors, and that drives me absolutely crazy because, of course, I know how impactful you are to the industry, so we're always searching out how does a travel advisor fit into these larger industry studies. So that's what we've done here, is combined two studies that we can relate into one simple graph here around the path to purchase. So I'm going to walk you through it here. So this study asked these 70,000 travelers where they and how they use each of these components within their path to purchase. So we have social media, we have search engine, OTA, direct. So OTA, I think everyone knows, but is online travel agency, like a Booking.com, for example. Direct is directly with a hotel company, a tour company, a cruise company. And then travel advisor is, of course, through travel advisors and travel agencies. So what is so fascinating here to me, well, many things, but the first is where we look at inspiration and how incredibly high that inspiration through social media is. So that is 78% of people, and they could select multiple ways that they get inspiration, but 78% said that they get inspiration from social media, compared to search engine and OTA at almost half of that. And then at direct, so direct inspiration, this could be from a hotel's advertisement marketing campaign, for example, at around 20%, and then from a travel advisor at around 10%, a little bit under 10% actually. So when you think about this and you look at this graph just from the inspiration standpoint, you absolutely need, and you're going to be so sick of me saying this, you need to meet them where they're getting inspired. And what's also very fascinating about this is that when you look at the areas of inspiration and you think about how you can be involved in them, direct can't really be involved in that. You know, there are travel companies that do create, let's say, affiliate links for travel advisors, so you can tack on to their marketing that they're doing. OTAs, other than Expedia TAP, for example, they're not really promoting travel advisors. Search engines, very expensive. Obviously, you can do things with organic search to move up the ladder in terms of people finding you through that inspiration on social media, but it's expensive. And then social media. And as I mentioned earlier, you can build incredible followings on social media for no cost through organic content. And that is a big part of what we're going to talk about here today when Harry joins me on stage. But I want you to remember how key that piece of social media is for your business to get in front of people at the point of inspiration, and also how you can do it at no charge for using that platform. All right, next up, we have research. So interestingly here, so you see social media dips a little bit when people want to get into more of that research phase. That's usually because they will leave something like an Instagram and go to even to a YouTube instead of Instagram to get more informational type of content, longer form videos. But you can see they get inspired on social media, then they go to search engines, they go to Booking.com, for example, or they go to the hotel's website to actually research. So what should be happening is not only should that inspiration with the travel advisor be higher, but absolutely it should increase when it goes to the research stage. You want people, even if they're being inspired somewhere from someone else on social media, you want them to come to you for the research component. And then here you can see where this really takes a dip now from social media into some of those other, I'll call them competing products that are taking away from your business and your opportunity. So this is where it goes to the planning stage and where people move more to essentially to the OTAs and direct sales. The travel advisor comes up a little bit in terms of the planning with these travelers, but ultimately not a lot. And then finally we get to the booking. And this part is probably what makes me the saddest about this chart, is that when you look at the beginning, there's all this opportunity. There's this opportunity just waiting out there for everyone, essentially everyone who's involved in booking travel, in terms of those 78% that are being inspired by social media. But then when it comes down to it, look who's gaining. Look who's gone from only being 40 or 20% of involvement in the path to purchase to now getting up to the 60% mark, whereas travel advisors are still around 10, 12%. This, to me, and it gives me chills even to be talking about this slide, this to me shows the absolute opportunity that you have in front of you, that's waiting for you. And if you look at even the OTAs, the direct, they have not even figured this out either. It wasn't until just a couple weeks ago where Booking.com actually released for the first time a social media influencer and content creator program So it essentially, influencers can have little microsites on Booking.com where they can start to send all those people they're inspiring directly to the OTA for the rest of the process. So you'll start to see that OTA not only increase for the inspiration, increase for the research, planning, and booking. And that's, of course, not what anyone in this room wants. So this is where it's so key to get in front of your travelers right from that point of inspiration. All right, question time, putting you all on the spot here now. After all of that, let's be honest here. How many of you have a social media page? It can be on any platform for your company, for your agency, and please be brutally honest here, don't be shy. Okay, most people, a few hands do not, all right? Now, I'm very curious about this because the top 3 social media platforms for travel are Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. So I'm doing a little research here. How many of you have a company, this is a company Facebook page? Okay, and how about company Instagram page? Okay, about the same, that's great. Company YouTube page. Okay, quite a bit less. And I'm not surprised to see that, because when you look at these social channels, and again, if you're trying to focus for your business, I know one of the main questions or pieces of feedback that we hear is that it's a lot, it's a big commitment. And I was just chatting with a gentleman, a new LCC member out during the coffee break, and he was saying how it's a big commitment. And I said, is it worth 78%? I see him sitting over there. I'm not going to call him out, but we had a great chat. Is it worth getting involved in spending more time on your social when you think about 78% of travelers being inspired by what they're seeing on social media? That is the question. So yes, it is absolutely worth the commitment. You have to find time to commit to it. But that doesn't mean you have to commit to all of the channels. They all are good for different reasons. So I will very generalize here, but Facebook is very good for getting at a slightly older demographic. Instagram is better at a slightly younger demographic. They both have similar content in terms of the types of things you post: photography, short-form videos. YouTube is very good for longer-form content, more educational content. My parents are big cruisers. They love I'll say they're actually obsessed with Cunard. And so they get inspired, usually they're used to Sun and travel, so we talk a lot about travel. But then when they go to do their research, they go to YouTube because they want to see the 10-minute long ship tour, going to all the restaurants and learning about the lectures and the staterooms and all of that. But that is not the same type of content that a younger generation is looking for on Instagram. So just keep that in mind. And when you think about your marketing program, it's just like social media is like any other marketing channel that you have. Think about your clients first. Where are your clients? Go to where they are. So when you think about the platforms you should be on, don't worry about being on all of them. Think about where your clients are, where your target market is. Do that one platform incredibly well. Don't worry about any of the others. All right, next question here. Do you individually have a social media page, either as a personal account or as a business account, but it's run by you? You have your picture on it. So hands up, who has a personal page? Okay, most people, which is fantastic. I'm curious, how many of you use those personal pages for any type of business, even if it's soft selling? Okay, probably about maybe a third of the group here. So that immediately is an incredible opportunity for you because, again, social media is all about individuals influencing individuals. So the fact that some of you are soft, and I say selling, it's more about using your relationships to help people understand how they can benefit from what you may be doing in your professional life, because social media is all about connections. So even if your connections may not purchase from you, they may have connections that purchase from you. So it's all about networking, essentially. And I know because you're all here, you are incredible networkers already. So let's talk about where you have these pages. So these are your personal pages. Are they Facebook? How many people have a Facebook page? And I should say pages that you use regularly as well. I know some of us have pages that we haven't used in a long time. All right, how about Instagram? Okay, a good amount. Okay, and YouTube? Okay, YouTube a few. So I thought that Instagram would be higher, actually. And if you're looking for the easiest way to get into creating more content to inspire more people that you know in your network, Instagram is the easiest place to do it because it's so visual. It's just all about pictures that are authentically you, and you can write a simple caption. It's a very simple way to get more into social media. Third question, and Martina promises she will close her eyes and not look, but are you posting content while you're here? Hands up if you are posting content while you're here. Okay, that number is far too low. Absolutely far too low. Basically everyone in the room here said you have a company page on social media, and you probably have a personal page that you may use for some business notices or not. So I would love to know, and just so you know as well, feel free to put Q&A questions into the app. I'll see them on the screen here, and we have a roving mic. But I would love to know what is stopping you from posting about this conference while you're here on your company pages, while you're being inspired for your business, and maybe even for your own travel. Why are you not sharing that with everyone who's hungry to be inspired by you and who has already shown that they can be influenced by you? That is a huge missed opportunity. So I hope that you all commit to yourselves, commit to Martina and the entire team, that you will post content while you're here. Okay? Hands up who's going to do that. Okay, more hands went up than were not before. So it's a start. We'll get you there. We'll get you there. But remember, 78% of travelers are inspired by what they see on social media. So this should be a no-brainer. I'm not going to make it gray for you. This is black and white. You have to be on social media. You have to be posting. You have to be inspiring your travelers. Okay, so bit of a reminder here. We're going to talk about now how we can take that line of inspiration that starts at that 78% and carry it over as much as possible into the travel advisor line and get that travel advisor line increasing. And really the main piece, the first piece, the key and the easiest way is around creating content, as I just mentioned. It's all about creating content. These are content-based social media platforms. It's all about pictures, words, your authenticity, your knowledge. You need to share that. So first, we didn't talk about, went too far there. We didn't talk about specifically this morning about how Lufthansa City Center is leading the charge here, is being innovative in this specific area of helping create content. And that is really why Anka and the team reached out to Journey a couple months ago. And so what Lufthansa City Center is starting to do, and really starting to model what is possible for you to do, is that over the coming year, they're going to be hosting content creators, some are also influencers, and we'll get into that in a minute, on various fam trips, for example, and various opportunities that they have to work with DMC partners and travel partners to host these people. And their entire reason for being there will be to create content that can be used on the LCC social channels as well as for you to use on your social channels. So a lot of companies, talk the talk, but LCC is walking the walk in terms of committing to this process and leading by example. So again, congratulations and thank you to Martina and the team for that, because not everyone is as innovative. And so that's what Lufthansa City Center is doing. And so now we're going to talk about this combination of your business, your travelers, and you, and how you can do very similar in terms of yourself creating content, as well as starting to think about, I'm not going to ask you today to come out of this with a commitment to work with influencers and content creators, but start to think about it as you think about your marketing strategy and your marketing plan. Start to think about making a commitment to this process as well. So, using influencers and content creators. So everyone has an idea of what an influencer is, and I always love asking the question if people think they are an influencer. And a reminder, yes, you are all influencers. I don't want you to forget everything you think you know about what an influencer is. Forget all of that. And one reason I say that is because we in the travel industry have created a lot of the monsters that are out there when it comes to influencers. And one reason we founded Journey was because of our experience in the industry, we knew that there was a need to bring best practices and standards to how travel companies work with influencers and content creators, because as you've seen, huge opportunity, but it's really been the Wild West until the last couple years. So that's really what we're here to help with. And it's really to help you understand, okay, out of these 40 million social media individuals that are economically consequential, I love that term that they came up with, how do you just start to even begin the process of working with people like this? And also, does it really work? And so I shared some stats earlier, and also actually today earlier in this session, around how it does work, how people actually do make purchases off of what they see on social media from influencers. And that's all great to talk about studies, but now I wanted to share with you some very specific journey case studies. So obviously I know they're very true because they happened in our own company and happen continuously, to let you know what is possible for your business as well. So on the left, we have Wendy. She's a content creator with her partner. They stayed at the Sahara Las Vegas. We were able to track specific bookings back to them staying at that property. And how they managed that relationship, Sahara hosted them. They just gave them a hosted experience. No money was exchanged hands because of the value of that experience of Vegas, and they put together some tours and activities for them. And they were able to prove that they could influence bookings at the Sahara Las Vegas. So you think, okay, Tim, that's Vegas, younger, hotel, easy. Second example there. This is Catherine McMahon is her name. I'm not going to tell you her age because I've also learned that from being married. Don't ask mother-in-laws their ages, but she's in an older demographic, and so she partnered with AMA Waterways. So this is more of a premium product, a longer vacation timeline, 7-day cruise. And similarly, she was hosted by AMA Waterways to create content. She creates beautiful content. She had 5 bookings come out of this sailing, specifically, just from this sailing, within the week of her doing this sailing. And again, this is just from AMA Waterways providing an experience in exchange for the content, them using that content, her using that content, and we were able to track those bookings specifically to her. On the right side, another cruise opportunity. So this is Virgin Voyages. So this is Morgan is her name, and she is a nurse. She's a full-time nurse and part-time content creator and influencer. She went on a Virgin Voyages cruise, and she came off of that cruise. Within 2 weeks, she had a group of 30 of her followers booked on Virgin Voyages. And what's really frustrating, until someone like Journey came along, until we have these travel agency partnerships as well, is those bookings, as you saw on the chart, great, everyone gets inspired by all of this great content, but then the bookings go to the OTAs, they go to other sources. So you are losing out on these types of opportunities, which is why LCC contacted us to help bring these opportunities to member agencies. And with that, I'm going to introduce the man of the hour. His name's been mentioned more than most today, I think. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the co-founder, or founder, I should say, sorry, Harry, of Servo Creative, who's also a Journey partner. Harry. Please have a seat there, Harry. So what we thought would be good, and again, a lot of this, we really want to hear from you, because part of it, Harry and I were talking a lot about this. Everyone has a different understanding of social media. Everyone has different needs around social media. So we really want to hear from you. We're going to go through some of the sort of tips and tricks, need-to-knows of social media, but we really want to make sure that you're understanding and learning from what we're talking about. So we do have a roaming microphone with Anka here, as well as you can use the Q&A on the app. It's very easy to just click Q&A and then find the session and just click the Q&A button. So to start us off here, though, welcome, Harry.
Thanks.
We're going to talk a little bit about the different types of creators and content, because we talk about influencers, we talk about content creators. So Harry, can you tell us a little bit about the difference between the two and why they're good to work with?
Sure. There is a very big difference, and influencers, if we're going to call them that, are not as scary as everybody might think they are. And for me, I never went out in my career and thought I want to be an influencer. My sort of love and passion was with photography and video. I then sort of grew my own personal channels, and now I've kind of turned into somebody that can sort of help influence other people in that space. But there's a variety of people that are sort of count as influencers now. Like Tim said, we're all influencers, and we can all help influence certain things. But nowadays, there's kind of a different line. A lot of people are very sort of are really, really good with just content and working on just the creating content, and that helps influence people separately.
Absolutely. And it's an important distinction as well. Another conversation I had earlier around how do you actually track, ROI, of course. We're talking a lot about data, and that's incredibly important to get to that profitability point that John mentioned. The different data points for return on investment of the different types of influencers and content creators. So one of them is awareness building. So Harry, for example, how many followers do you have, Harry, on Instagram?
About 100.
Don't be modest yet.
About 180,000.
Yeah, getting close to 200,000. So Harry's absolutely an influencer, in his own right with those kinds of numbers. But then also Harry's incredible at creating content. So often, Harry's like the perfect storm of those two. But often you can look for one or the other as well, depending on your strategy. So working with individuals on social media is not a one-size-fits-all. Always go back to your marketing strategy and then think, okay, am I trying to build awareness here? For example, awareness that may drive the follower count of my own agency business, or am I looking maybe a bit more for content? Because on Instagram, you need to have fresh content that is authentic, user-generated, 3 or 5 times a week at least to really make a good go at Instagram. So that's when you can work with a content creator who may not have very many followers at all, but they may create the content that really resonates with your brand and speaks to your travelers. Thanks, Harry. All right, next up here. So we're all good on influencers, content creators. Now let's talk about how you actually work with them. Because a lot of companies will immediately say, well, I don't have the time myself. Should I use a PR agency? There's all these platforms out there. How do you generally answer that question?
Sure. It's difficult because if you want to work with a content creator or sort of more influencer, a lot of the time you've got to go down an agency route, and that can get really, really expensive really quickly. Or you can try and manage it in-house. And it takes a lot of time to narrow down who you want to work with, check the analytics and make sure they're a right fit, that the demographic that they have on their social platforms is worth doing. And also working out what you kind of are looking for. A lot of the time when I work with different businesses, they're looking for sort of high-level content. And instead of hiring a photographer or a videographer to come into your business and create content, you can use a content creator or an influencer to kind of kill 2 birds with one stone and bring everything in it sort of just through one person. And then there's platforms like Journey where you could partner with them and they do all the hard work pretty much, sort of connecting you with influencers that will be a good fit, and then you sort of go through and you can pick who you want to work with. So there's lots of different options in ways that you can find people and doing it. It kind of just depends on, how much time you've got and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's obviously time commitment, financial commitment, and whatnot, but it's important to understand, again, going back to your marketing strategy, what are you really looking for? What do you want to achieve from, whether it's the influencers or content creators, before you decide who am I going to work with? Because that will ultimately need to align. One interesting thing that we see more and more on the content side is just this need for content. And what's really fascinating, especially with something like Instagram and now with TikTok as well, YouTube has remained pretty steady in the type of content that you see on there. But on Instagram, Harry and I were talking about all the different types of content. So just not to confuse you even further, but within content creators, you also need to think about the type of content you want that content creator to create. So for example, I'll use Harry again. Harry, very incredible at, I would call, commercial photography. Is that a fair way to describe it, Harry? Commercial photography. So you have that on one side, but then you also have content creators that focus on very relatable in front of the camera content. they may be always on camera, and that's probably more of what the influencer is that you're thinking of, but those can also be very good content creators. One of the most successful campaigns that many of our partners have worked on is to use content creators to experience the ship, for example, and then to have what's called an Ask Me Anything. So on Instagram, it allows you to have a little pop-up box where your followers can ask you a question. Like, what are the hours of the restaurants? Or, is the pool, literally, what is the pool temperature? It can be anything like that. And it's incredible how valuable those little pieces of content are for you to use on your social accounts. So when you think about content creation, a lot of people either think of the commercial photography or they think about someone, in a bathing suit posing by the pool. There is a lot in between there, and again, it comes down to what you're looking to achieve for your business. All right, let's move on to the next item here. So we've talked a little bit about resources and costs, time, etc. So what are some of the ways to get started in working with content creators and influencers, especially for those, because we're all in the travel industry, and it has that really high value in people's minds?
Yeah, for me, I love to travel, so gifting experiences is always something that I look at as well. But there's kind of a distinction between, what you can expect out of someone if you're just gifting an experience, or whether you're going to pay for that experience. If you're going to pay, if you've got some budget to give to a content creator, you can sort of put together some deliverables of maybe photography, video content that you're looking for, what that person might post. But if you're sort of just going to gift an experience, a lot of the time for content creators and influencers, it's quite a nice way of sort of not getting a free holiday as such, but it's a way that they can travel and experience different things while sort of benefiting, an agency as well. So it does depend on what you're looking for. If you wanted something a little bit more tailored, if you want something that you're looking for a lot more content that you can post on your socials, that's great. Then I think at that point you're looking to try and maybe push some more budget into it. But if you want to sort of get started, and you can almost gift an experience to influencers, that doesn't really, it obviously comes at some cost, but it's a good way of just getting people in the door and having continuous content that you can post on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you saw earlier, those examples I gave of Sahara, Las Vegas, AMA Waterways, Virgin Voyages, those were all gifted experience in exchange for content. And that is very unique to travel. Most of the time, we do a lot of comparisons. So if you want to read on how other industries are finding success with social media and with influencers, content creators, best places to look are fashion and beauty. They are light years ahead of travel. So there is this path that's been laid out for us. Now we all just need to follow it, essentially, and tweak it according to travel. One of those great tweaks in there is that the value to an influencer content creator, obviously a traveler, of travel is so much higher than a tube of lipstick or a dress that's been sent to them at home to try on and take some pictures. So that's where a first step for you to think about is what's in your arsenal of value when you look at your budgets. And I know, again, coming from the travel agency world, margins can be low, not a lot of marketing spend to be had. So look at what's in your world of value that you can provide in exchange for getting into this content with influencers and content creators. And then really once you start to, as Harry mentioned, once you start to create that content, then you can also start to have longer term relationships with them as well. So that you could have, it's very common for companies to shift from using many different influencers and content creators to have something called ambassadors that you would use on a regular basis. And again, don't always think about outside influencers and content creators. Your existing travelers are also influencers and content creators. Make sure that when they're traveling, it doesn't matter if it's business or pleasure, that they're tagging your company accounts. Often they're happy to. They want to support your business. That's why they're working with you. So a part of this is also to get your travelers involved as influencers for your own business. Again, this is all about individuals, influencing individuals and using that network effect. All right, and sorry, the clicker there just stop for a second. And so finally here, and again, we want to get into questions because we just have a bit of time here. But long term, this is really what is important about working with these individuals of influence within your network. So building a brand voice. So it's really helpful to get a network of people out there that have that same brand voice that you're using and using it consistently with messaging and content. And then finally, it's really about building lasting connections with your audience. Thank you, Anka. It's working now here. But that's really what it's all about here, is using those individuals to line up with your brand, to create content, to have this lasting connection. And this network effect will flow from that. All right, so that is it for the formal session. You've heard enough from us. We are dying to hear from you. Questions, comments, best practices, things you've heard. Yes, please, gentlemen, about 4 rows down. Do we have the microphone? Sorry, no, Anka just went to the back there. It was up at the front. I'll come down. Sorry, Anka, where's the microphone? Okay, here she comes. Little marathon down the aisle here. Wonderful, thank you. Just right here, this gentleman right here, yes, in the 5th row.
Okay, thank you very much. Isaac from Planeto, Israel.
Hi, Isaac.
I would like to ask you about your opinion about TikTok as a platform for content, because I know, and I heard some lectures about TikTok, you can spread easily with this content, because it's already spread to people that you don't know, but they are interested about the content. So what's your opinion about it?
We could talk for an hour about TikTok alone. But we'll try and give some simple things to think about for TikTok. So to begin with, I'll go a little bit broad for a second here. So go with me down this rabbit hole. So with thank you. Are those the? Oh, great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. The questions are fabulous. Okay, there's a lot. Okay, there are a lot. All right. So I won't go too pie in the sky then on TikTok. But one of the important things to remember about these social media channels, and especially TikTok, is that it's still quite new. And so the algorithms of how they decide what becomes viral, essentially, and what people are going to see is constantly changing. So it can be very difficult to figure out, and I know Harry will live this every day. Companies will say, oh, we want to go viral, just make us viral. It's not that easy. One of the reasons is because the algorithms of these platforms are constantly changing, and TikTok is the newest one, so they're still finding their way. The other that I would say is that the main other thing is that TikTok is quite a bit of a younger skewing audience still. So I would not personally suggest that you focus on TikTok content as your primary, especially if you're just starting to really get into social media. But I'm happy to talk more about TikTok. Harry, I don't know if you have anything else you wanted to add quickly on TikTok.
TikTok's is a really interesting one, and it can be really, really influential. I personally don't use it too much, just because it is that sort of quite a younger audience on there, and I find that it works a lot better with sort of user-generated content and people that don't necessarily put together high-end videos for sort of photos and that kind of thing. It works a lot better if you can just, the content that works really well on there is just stuff that's shot on your phone. And when you try and upload something quite commercial or very sort of polished video, that kind of thing doesn't work too well, because people that are scrolling on TikTok are just looking for relatable content that can almost pass the time. It doesn't tend to be somewhere that people make sort of informed decisions to sort of research and book something. Yeah. That's why I use Instagram a lot more, because people tend to go onto Instagram for that higher level content that is kind of what I produce. So.
And from a purely business perspective, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, they're more mature businesses. They're owned by much more mature businesses. So there's that level of trust in them as well. As much as we all complain about them as well. There's that level of trust, and that comes from years of them doing what they're doing. Whereas TikTok is still very, very new. So again, because of the younger skewing demographic, and a bit less because it's new on the reporting to be able to say that TikTok is a great place to sell travel. I would stay away from it as a primary focus for, especially if you're looking to track it back to bookings. All right, we have tons of questions here. So yeah, we'll go through, and how much time, sorry, the clock?
Over.
Oh, it's over, oh, okay.
Let's go through them with short.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I think I've answered some of these already here. Question around, okay, increasing the number of followers on Instagram. That's a great one. So I'm stuck at just under 900 all the time, no matter how many new followers I get. And really for the key to Instagram specifically is around consistency and around content as well. I would suggest if you're stuck at a certain number, one thing that you can do is try different things. Try different things to see what sticks, because it may be that specific type of content you're posting is what is the problem. So that's a very quick answer. I would try a few different things, but make sure that the content is fresh. Next one here, to be visible on social media, it costs money. You said at no cost, please enlighten us. So when I mentioned around no cost, there's no cost to be on social media, and that as the basis is all you need. You do not need to spend a lot of money to be very successful on social media. It's all about, primarily it's about the content that you're creating. Again, that's why we're talking here today about content. Content quality, should we use our own content which is not professional and usually of less quality, or use photos from Shutterstock and others? Absolutely do not use Shutterstock. Do not use photos that people can find anywhere else. That is not what social media is about. That is not what they're looking for. The highest performing content is authentic and user-generated. It needs to be personal, and personable. People need to relate to it. So yes, create your own content. Don't worry how pretty it looks, as long as it is you and it aligns with what you know of your target market, start there. How can we be visible on social media at no cost? I think we talked about that a bit here. When creating content for corporate travel, how important is the mix of knowledge-based content versus product-based or company sales-driven content? So great question around the corporate piece. LinkedIn, specifically for corporate, LinkedIn is becoming huge, absolutely huge for corporate level influence, as I talked about in that one statistic. So for your LinkedIn content, as I was just chatting again earlier in a coffee break conversation around, it can be very similar to your leisure conversation, but with a business mix. Because these people buying, looking for business travel, they're still people, and they still react to travel in a very emotional way. So try not to skew it too much toward the business side. Start with the inspiration. Start with a little bit more of that emotional, even for the corporate side. How are vendors tracking the bookings from the content that's created? Is a direct link, click-through from the content to the booking site? Great question, and this is one of the reasons that we founded Journey, is because we help with this. So we actually track through to various types of affiliate programs or to lead generation to travel advisors. So it's very nascent, and that's why we're in this space, is to really help solve that equation. I mentioned to you earlier about how we track those bookings. It was through a variety of sources, but ultimately it's all ones that we have a hand in, that we help you control. Sorry, I'm getting lost here. So many great questions. As DMC, how do you influence the travel agencies to offer your destination? I think it's more B2C than B2B. So as we talked about, social media is great for B2B, B2B2C, B2B2C. Again, it's really just all about knowing your market and what they're looking for. So for DMCs, it's the same thing, but you, of course, have a plethora of content that you can take advantage of. But then it's all about presenting that content in a way that's going to speak to the travel agencies and specifically travel advisors that you want to sell your content. So it's the same principles. Really good influencers and content creators are asking a fortune for posting. Cheap influencers are less effective. Is there a balance in between the two ends? Travel agencies are not ready to pay thousands of euros for each post. I completely agree. You should not be paying thousands of euros for each post. We see it constantly about what's being asked. And that's a bit of this wild west that the industry is in, and that we at Journey specifically are working to standardize. And again, as I mentioned, the first place that I would start is don't forget the value that you have inherently in what you do, and use that as a negotiating tactic. The amount of times I've seen where someone, an influencer comes with outrageous figures they're looking for, but they really want to go on that trip, and then ultimately they bring that down and they admit, I want to go on that trip. Like, it's my bucket list dream to go on that trip or have that experience. So remember where you have some negotiating power there, but absolutely do not pay a lot for posts without them being able to prove to you some sort of an ROI as well. So ask for, just like any marketing you would spend on, don't just pay blindly, make sure you get ROI from previous campaigns that they've worked on too. All right, next up here, a few questions about the survey itself. So the survey that I mentioned with the path to purchase, so it was 70,000 travelers, all adult travelers that had booked over the previous 6 months, and it was done by a company called Luth out of the UK, so a very big research firm. And in terms of the OTAs that they used, they did an aggregate because they have access to all of these data points from several OTAs. All the major OTAs participated in this study. And then the countries that were in the study, it was US, Canada, a lot of Europe, Japan, Australia. Were part of that study. And then the part on travel advisors is a Focusrite study that just came out last week, actually, that is absolutely fascinating. If you want a copy or information on how you can read more about it, I should say, because you do have to pay for the full study, but I can give you some snippets of it, just shoot me an email and I'll be happy to share that with you. And that was it for that. That was rapid fire questions. Thanks for sitting through all of that.
Anything else? Yes, sir. Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Because
Yes,
we
please. Oh, yes, yes.
use the
Yeah.
two more minutes over here.
Okay.
Thank
You let us know, Anka, when we could talk all day, so you tell us when time's
And in
up.
all honesty,
Yes,
I tried to
you-
post, but it gave me a network error, so I couldn't get through. Sorry. I just wanted to ask you, do hashtags work, and is there a certain time that you have to look at posting? Because you talk about consistency, and that's a big word to look at. When you say consistent, what does consistent mean?
Yeah, great question. So there's consistency in many things. There's consistency in your marketing message, like basically the type of content you're posting, what it looks like visually, your captions, all of that, the usual marketing consistency around that. The timing of when you're posting, think about your clients, first off. Think about your travelers and your target market, and when they generally are likely to be using social media. There are certain times, usually it's kind of mid-morning, mid-afternoon is the best time to post, especially stories, because they show up, right at the front on Instagram. They're the first thing people look at. So usually mid-morning, mid-afternoon, where people are sort of going into coffee break mode, taking a little relax from whatever they may be doing. But also, as you know, people are on social media all the time. Hours, when you average it out, it's hours every day. So we actually find, and I don't know, Harry, if you find anything differently, but weekends are also a great time to post, and you can time them to post it on the weekends. Saturday, Sunday mornings can be an absolutely fantastic time to post.
What about hashtags?
Oh, and hashtags, yeah, great question as well. Hashtags, they're mainly good these days, I would say, for when you want to be able to track the success of what you're doing. It's better to have mentions of your account, because people can actually click that mention, so the @ sign, like when you do at Lufthansa City Center, that means someone can actually click on that and go to Lufthansa City Center's account and then follow them. If you do a hashtag, when someone clicks on a hashtag, it just takes them to all of the content that uses that hashtag. So they're going to look through the content, but it doesn't actually get them back to being able to then follow your account. So I'd use hashtags more as a tracking mechanism for yourself and less as an understanding of, this is going to get people necessarily to follow me. Yeah, it's definitely more important. If you have one thing you put in there, it's make sure that your account is tagged. Like for your travelers, make sure they're tagging your account over a hashtag. Make sure they're tagging your account first. That's a priority.
I'll touch on this as well.
Go ahead.
Sorry, last question.
Okay.
How often we should post it?
How often you should post? For Instagram, I would suggest a minimum of 3 times a week. There's so much content and it needs to be fresh on there, and people are on Instagram so often too. They almost expect to see your content. So Instagram, I would suggest 3 times a week, and usually it can be a bit more in the middle of the week or on the weekend. Try to avoid Monday and Friday.
Yeah. In terms of when you'd like to post as well, you can go into your settings on Instagram and find out specific times that your followers are active on platforms as well. So you can build that into sort of your strategy as well of when you're looking to post. Just put together a plan that's fairly straightforward. If it's 3 times a week that you're looking to post, say Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, for example, you can go on into your settings and work out when your users are actually active in terms of timings, then use that and sort of post just before people are active or at the time people are active. And then when people come onto that platform, you can see straight away that your post should be right at the top. And hashtags as well. Don't put in 30 hashtags on each post. That doesn't work anymore. It used to, but not anymore. Keep them short and relevant. So maybe 3 to 5, no more than 5, I would say, because then with those shorter ones, you're going to be, you're going to have more chance of sort of featuring on the explore page as well on Instagram. And yeah, just keep it relevant. Don't spam 30 hashtags on every post. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. People just start to ignore them.
Yeah.
Here,
All right.
I have a question to Harry. If you're invited by DMC or a destination, do you prefer to have a tight itinerary where they take you there and there and there and there, or you rather prefer to explore the destination on your own to find the right content your followers would like to see?
Sure. But a good example of this is that I'm working with Journey next week on a Windstar cruise, and I've been working with them, and we're sort of bouncing ideas off of each other. They have lots of excursions, and it's quite nice working with them quite closely to work out what the main things are that they would like highlighted in terms of what excursions are really good, so I can go on and make sure I get really, really good content. But also it's quite nice to have the flexibility for me to just go and sort of capture what I think is best. So it's kind of back and forth. There isn't a definitive answer of what works best, but I think just having the chat with the content creator, with the influencer, and working out how they like to work. But I think recommendations are really good. It's really helpful for me to have a rough itinerary of what content I would like to shoot and what the opportunity is on experiences.
And we find the same thing from all of our partners. They ask the same question. And often what we find from the creator side is that it's a mix of the two, but leaning much more toward letting them experience everything like a client would or a traveler would, giving them that time to explore and find those unique content points that you may not even realize exist as well. So have those kind of tentpole guidelines or recommendations, but then really give them time to be creative and do what they do because they know their followers best.
Okay. Let's assume I will post on my Facebook account as the nice hotel mailer here. Let's assume somebody sees it. Yeah. How much are the chances that he's booking with my office and not directly?
Well, you saw that the numbers don't lie. So most of the time, the bookings from social media posts are going to OTAs. Most of the time, that's what's happening. And this is a challenge that hotels are dealing with. Obviously every distribution channel has its place, but when you're posting about it, you are a distribution channel. You are one of those channels. And when you're posting about it and getting someone inspired and it goes to another distribution channel, that's where the problem is. So most of it is going to the OTAs right now. So that's where you really need to think about when you're posting too, that you need to think about not just throwing it out there, but also put on your marketing, leading into sales hat and think, how can I turn this into a call to action? It's like this hotel, call me, let's chat, I'll tell you all about it, Send me an email, I'll give you my top 3 tips for staying at this property or going to Braga. Have some sort of an action to get them to contact you, but in a soft way, right? Not just saying, buy this, call me if you want to purchase this. It's, let me give you some tips on this property, and then you can carry on the path to purchase process with them.
That's another thing, in terms of the consistency as well. If you're consistently posting on these social media platforms, when people come back to open their app and there's another post from you as well, it reminds them to go back to your page and maybe make a booking that way, rather than researching going elsewhere. If you can almost have a good call to action in sort of regular posts, people can sort of easily reminded. And this isn't just on Instagram either. If you're posting on LinkedIn regularly, it's really, really good because your name's always going to come up, more frequently. And
I was just mentioning earlier as well, LinkedIn is a good one where you get a bit more length in the life of your post, because LinkedIn, more than others, will still show posts from a week ago, from 2 weeks ago. They'll still bubble up to the top if they've been engaged with well. So LinkedIn, you can do a little bit more of a longer, plan for a little bit more of a longer life cycle on those posts. You also bring up a good point in that last one, Harry, around the timeline for when people get inspired to when they purchase. So what we find as well is that so often we think about social media, it's creating content, and if I don't see a booking within a couple days of it, then it's failed, we're on to the next thing. So often people will actually save posts into their inspiration list in Instagram, and they will come back to them. The amount of times we've heard from creators that a year later someone said, you know what, I remembered that ever since you posted about that Fairmont property in Hawaii, I've wanted to go there, and I literally just booked it now a year later. Thank you for inspiring me to do that. Now, again, the problem is that booking went to the OTA instead of through some way that creator was connected with, say, a travel agency that they could book with. And so the creator could almost share in the commission in that way too, through an affiliate program. So again, there's this opportunity to take that inspiration and direct it in different ways to other distribution channels.
We have a few more questions. We try to keep the answers a little bit shorter.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Not good at short answers.
Short question. In case we create content for Instagram, is it okay to use the option to share on Facebook, or shall we create different content for both social media channels?
I'll keep it short answer, both. Do it for both. As a default, do it for both. They're close enough in the type of content, do it for both.
Yes, thank you. You have not really talked about the cost of being feasible. We have content, we employed someone that has been putting content on our page, but we don't get enough responses. So we're at a point where it is said that we need to advertise to keep our posts and content feasible. Is this correct?
Yeah, and this is where, well, it's to give a quick answer to this. So every business is a little bit different, and there's always a mixture of organic and paid marketing. I'll just say across all the different marketing channels. For social, you can be very successful with your organic, where you don't have to pay, and it's really a trial and error when you're getting started. But always going back to the principles of what's my target market looking for? What are my travelers, my existing travelers already doing that I could repurpose, which is often they're happy to have you share it for free. Your team, yourself creating content. So there are a lot of ways to have that organic content that doesn't cost you anything to figure out what works. And then once you figure out what works, then you can start to think about, okay, now if I want to scale this, maybe I want to put a little money behind this and do a sponsored post. But don't do that without understanding what kind of content aligns with your brand and with your target market.
Yeah. I'd also add, on Instagram and Facebook, there's a very easy button that's
it's easy on purpose, right?
It says boost post.
Yeah.
Avoid using that at all costs, because you can't target the right demographic that you're looking for easily.
Yeah.
You have to go into sort of the business manager part of Facebook to help advertise on Facebook and Instagram. It's very tempting.
Yeah,
it's
they make it very
tempting,
easy.
And a lot of the time,
do not go there until you feel like you're an expert or you employ an expert to get into the world of paid. Again, start with the basics.
It's a very quick way just to lose lots of money, and it's not good.
Well, very interesting everything. I have a quick question about Instagram or Facebook. When you do a post, do you follow it with a story of the post, or what is?
Do you want to start with it?
I always tend to follow it with a story if I can, just because people can quite easily click on that story and take it directly to the post. And there's ways that you can adjust that to make it sort of. You can almost hide the post with a sticker, for example, so people are more inclined to want to find out more and things like that. Yeah. Try and tease people to make that click onto a post. That really helps in terms of getting the clicks on.
I'll go so far as to say never post a feed post without also doing a story post. Never. Yeah. Hard rule.
Can I do the last one, please, quickly? Actually, it should be the closing one. Tim Harry, thanks so much for the insights and all this inspiration. A question to you two. Give me your statement 5 years from now. What will the influencers be like, and how the social media will look like in 5 years?
5 years from
Thanks.
now. I love this question. Quick answer again. So I'll go back to actually my history in the business. So I've been in the business for 20 years. Started out in the business with what came to be Canada's largest network of independent travel advisors. back when you think of independent travel advisors starting out, and did they influence people to travel? Could they inspire people to travel? And look what they've become. What we're seeing happen now, and what's going to be even more prevalent in the future, is not only influencers becoming travel advisors becoming influencers, more this coming together of just influential individuals that have the power because of social media to be able to inspire and influence on their own. So in 5 years, it's going to be every travel advisor will also be, an influencer and a content creator, probably earning from multiple streams around that. And vice versa. Everyone who's right now an influencer content creator, again, looking ahead at fashion and beauty are already way ahead of us. They're all earning a lot of money from selling travel. They're going to be earning a lot of money earning a lot of money from fashion and beauty. They're going to be earning a lot of money from selling travel. So this isn't going anywhere. It's only, basically, the worlds are colliding. And you can either take advantage of it or you can be left behind.
And I think a good thing as well, in terms of the type of content, I think it's going to completely change. There's still a lot of people doing a hard sell with very sort of commercial advertisement type thing. I think we're going to go even further away from that and see a lot of user-generated content from stuff that looks organic. It looks like, it's a regular person that's paid for an experience, and that's their experience. I think that's what's going to start selling more of these kind of trips and things like that, rather than, maybe a $15,000 posh advertisement. I don't think that's going to work anymore. It will be the organic content that's created by real people. I think that's what we're going to see a lot more of. And you bring up one good point there that I'll end on, because it leads into tomorrow too. We get asked a lot about AI in marketing and AI in what your commercial, photography and everything. And people will be craving even more and more authentic content from individuals that they can relate to. It's not a machine that's deciding what content they should magically, design to present to you. So that will become even more important. As automation helps other areas, it's not going to help in something that's so emotional. It's all about feeling. You need to have that personal connection with another person who's doing some authentic content that you can relate to.
Super cool. So thanks very much to Tim and Harry for being with us for this past hour and even longer. Big thanks to both of you. We hope we inspired you a little bit of where the path is going, and we hope that this was a good kickoff for our Journey partnership, obviously, and also working with Harry even closer, and that we have you all on board of this wonderful journey with Journey. So you reach out to us in the marketing team if you want to be part of that game. We will shoot this out now more intense after the Praga conference. Now, next part of the program is the DMC Fair outside. The next 2 hours we have DMC Fair, so you can go and visit our DMCs, buyer seller talks, and then by 1:30 it's lunchtime down at the pool. Thank you so much. See you later. And again, big thanks to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.